We're joined now by Gleacher Company analyst Brian Marshall. Brian is a Bloomberg best on Apple and one of the most accurate forecasters. He'll be going to the event a bit later today. So, Brian, what are you going to look out for when you're walking the floor of Macworld?
Sure. Thanks, Betty. Yeah, I think it's unfortunate. Obviously, Apple won't have a presence there. Clearly, they host their own events, and obviously they have scale too.
Right.
So basically, be talking with most of the content developers, the application partners, accessory manufacturers, just getting a sense of what they feel is the kind of demand trends out there, what they see as interesting opportunities going forward, and just talking basically to the ecosystem. I think that's kind of what it's all about today.
But what's important for you to inform you about where Apple's headed?
Well, probably not going to learn too much today about that. Clearly, I think Apple sort of creates its own destiny and creates large opportunities within technology, for that matter. And so, I think really that is dictated by Apple and what they see going forward. Today's more about the ecosystem and what are the opportunities there. So, I think it's just going to be talking about what are the development applications with the iPhone, for example, as well as the iPad.
Okay, Brian, but for you then, outside of what you're going to look for in Apple, what are your questions on Apple then? What's the biggest thing on your mind? Is it Steve Jobs? It's got to be, right?
Well, I think clearly there is key man risk there, obviously. I think most of the investment community right now is pretty comfortable with the situation that, the company's in terms of the hands of Tim Cook. I think most people feel that Tim will be anointed CEO later this year. Hopefully Steve has a speedy recovery. And, a lot of people expect he come back in the role of a senior advisor and perhaps chairman of the board. So that would be our expectation, and that's what we think most investors would prefer at this point.
But Brian, what if that expectation doesn't pan out? What if he never comes back?
Well, clearly Steve's irreplaceable, and that would be problematic. If you look at it, I think Apple really is on a 3-year product cycle. 2004, we had the volume ramp of the iPod. 2007, the iPhone. 2010, the iPad. 2013, I think it has to do something with the living room. And so, beyond that, I think that's where the real question comes into play. If Steve doesn't come back, I think his absence will be most felt probably 5 to 10 years down the road.
Well, I think the question that people have is if he never comes back, how badly will that stock fall?
Well, I actually don't think it will be too bad. I mean, if you look at it.
Well, can you define too bad, not too bad? Can you define that for me?
Well, clearly right now the stock's about $340. Our price target's $400. We think that's conservative. I think, people sort of read between the lines in terms of Steve's email. I think expectations is that he probably is not going to be coming back in terms of CEO role. If he doesn't come back at all, clearly that would be problematic.